Get strong.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this one. And this is the Global Scholarship Experience. And today I have with me a very good friend from high school. I don't want to mention his name, we would go deep into it. And he's a network engineer and a cloud solutions architect, currently enrolled in a PhD program at North Dakota State University. I think I got it right. And he's interested in machine learning, data science, cloud computing, and software engineering. And over the last decade, he has made substantial contributions to the field of education, banking, finance, information technology, and customer service. And I don't know if I've missed something. Could I have missed something about your profile?
No, I think you had it accurate. So you had my profile accurate.
Yeah, so let's talk about who is our guest. If you could introduce yourself a little bit.
All right. My name is Francis Martinson. A former classmate of Derek. We were in high school together. And I think he forgot to say that, but then I'm a married man with a son, very smart guy. And then yep, so that is all about me. That's the additions that are those are the additions that I'll add to that. But then I'm glad to be on the show.
Okay, so that's interesting to have you. I think we were in the same class together
Yep,
in
we were
in
in
high school.
in high
And
school.
well, can you share a little bit about your high school experience?
My high school experience was pretty rough, but then it built me, right? So there are so many things that I can see because of that of my high school experience. I could see so many things, and I was able to understand people from that point of view. My high school experience, I always faced challenges, and the challenge of actually standing out, and the challenge of actually standing in or settling in. Um, Derek will tell you our class was one exceptional class, very smart people. And I'd come from a point of view where, or a history or a background where I stood out. I'll be the smartest guy in there. I'll be the most creative person in there. But the class had all of those. I was tinier. But then high school helped me build me a lot. Accra Academy is a place where most of my family members went to, and I'm glad that I came there. It's built me, it's made me who I am. And even up to now, I take lessons from that in my life now.
There you go. Today, both of us are PhD candidates in different countries. I'm in Norway, and Francis is in the United States. And the interesting thing is, I'm still with sports, and Francis is more the fidgeting type, you
Yeah,
know.
very
So
curious.
I'm not surprised he's also in information technology or engineering, as others would call it. And he's been very successful in terms of banking, finance, and engineering. And if you follow him keenly on Facebook, he's usually very conscious about people who engage in fraudulent activities with technologies and stuff like that. He's been quite successful work with some banks in the United States of America and in Ghana as well. But the point is, um, given your very successful experience as network engineer and cloud solutions architect, we assume that such people, receive a lot of the salary is very enormous. So why did you choose to do PhD, which is very stressful sometimes?
Yep, PhD is very stressful, and you have to have an innate motivation. Currently, I am the assistant vice president of US Bank, a department in US Bank. I'm in charge of reporting and intelligence, and I've worked with Microsoft too, as one of the sport delivery managers. Right. One thing that I know is that you can't not grow and develop. I've loved teaching. I've loved imparting. My end motivation is to finish all of these, get all of these experiences, have this reputation, retire writing books or being, an online advocate for education or anything IT. So my desire to be in the PhD field, and that's why I'm actively teaching. I teach at three colleges now, right? It's because I really want to be engaged with my students, be relevant with my students, pick all the knowledge and experience, and then my end goal of writing books and then being very prominent in the academia, in the field of academia, I do that. So the PhD is just my retirement package rather
Well,
than something.
that's very interesting, and I think I kind of agree with you in many ways. I had worked in the sport and development sector for 10 years before deciding to enter into the PhD. And when you get in, it's different. You have practical experience, and then you're not kind of like trying to theorize it. And I think you don't really stress in terms of thoughts, but the stress is still there, but you don't really struggle a lot comparatively when you look at it in different ways. And people will be intrigued. IT, that's a lot of money.
Yep, IT is good money.
PhD doesn't really pay that much.
No, you see, so when I decided I was going to do my PhD, my friends were like, "Why are you doing PhD?" The average, and I pulled out the average professor's salary. That was about 60% of what I earn now.
Yeah,
Even though I started this high level, um, you know, mine is more about not about IT person. Mine is about data consciousness and data
yeah,
integrity and data security. So they're looking at all of these things, and these are things that are going to stay with us for eternity because
mm,
people are they're going to have bad actors, and then they are saying, why are you doing this when trying to go into academia? And that's what I said. Mine is not to end up quitting my job because my job gives me the experience, hands-on experience that I need to factor in anything that a resource that I'll place in the academia. One thing about being strict all out academia is that you lose the touch of real life experiences. I've worked with professors, and as a matter of fact, some professors use people like us to
yeah,
try and get into the industry,
exactly.
get relevant information from the industry
I
because
agree.
they try to ask for it and they don't get it, right? So they try to ask for it and then they don't get it. But then people like me have free access to industrial knowledge and industrial experience that can factor into most of the things that I speak about or speak to in the academia. So I'm not actually going to quit the industrial experience and then fit myself in the academia because honestly, you can do both of them at the same time, and then you give your students very good value for their money when they pay
Yeah,
for it.
totally agreed. So let's put it this way, before we go into your PhD proper, would you advise, young people, especially those with masters who just want to, go straight into the PhD to do that, or would you tell them to gather some experience to familiarize themselves with the context in which they will be researching? Take some time before they go into PhD.
I'd say first and foremost, you have to understand that a PhD is not it's as paced as your college wants to give you. If your college wants to give you 5 years of PhD experience, take it. If your college wants to give you 10 years, if you can leverage 10 years of college experience for PhD, take it. Whenever you believe that the time is right for you to do a PhD, do it. But I would say do it as soon as possible because you and I know the struggles of having family life. And then once you start growing in your career, the complexities and the complications of that, right? I would say, and I tell people a lot, I have friends who are doing their masters now. I'm like, finish hard, get into the PhD. Once you are into the PhD, then get yourself internship opportunities. Get yourself,
Mm.
most companies would hire you and then pay you less and keep you for a longer time because they know in 3 years and 4 years you'll be a PhD student, and then your pay increase will not be up to if they were hiring you as a doctor, right? So I would say if you can get in now. Once you get into a PhD, one as a student, it gives you credibility both at both ends of it. But if you want to finish everything before you go into the work industry, you don't get anything. And I had that experience with Microsoft, right? Where I went into Microsoft. When I went into Microsoft, most of the people that I started the training with did not even have college degrees, and I had an advanced college degree and experience,
Yeah.
and I knew nothing. They were speaking industrial experience, industrial tricks. They were doing industrial workarounds that I did not have. So they stood out, and I was struggling, right? So you have to leverage everything, but you have to understand that if you believe the time is right, get in as soon as possible in both ends. If you get into the academia as soon as possible, leverage internship opportunities. Understand that you're not going to earn enough money, but you're going to earn enough experience, right? And that's
So
it.
Well said, and I think this is a very important message out there, but also to let students and then viewers also know that when we talk of PhD, there are two routes. You can take the monograph, and then you can take PhD by publication. I believe Francis is doing monograph,
Yep.
and I am doing by publication. So when you do the monograph, then you have the leverage to take internship and what have you. But when you're doing publication, then you are tied up like me,
Yep.
right? Then all you do is to make sure that you publish the number of
Yep.
articles needed for you to complete your PhD.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to know the difference. With mine, I would advise that get some experience from the field before you take the PhD by publications, right?
And
If you want to go monograph, then I think the internship would also help you, get access, learn the language, get access to research participants as well.
Domain language, and it's the same thing with the research, and you have to right now I'm writing two researches. I'm developing a new kind of AI, and this will be the first place I'll be talking about that. It's called artificial intuitive intelligence. We have the artificial intelligence now that is actually people think is being intuitive, it's giving you information, it's being conversational, but it's just picking data from the cloud. So it's not introducing any new language or any new idea or any new concept that has not been populated into the cloud system.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at leveraging things like programming by example and other concepts to try and see if we can then we are getting to that generation where the bot can actually think for us and then can take over the world and all of those things, right? And I couldn't have spoken to that if I didn't have industrial experience.
Yeah, that's
Right.
fantastic.
I've written that.
I would have to come in here because so that we're going. It looks like you're now trying to unveil part of your PhD program here.
Oh,
so
I have to be very careful.
So let's hold on a little bit. So I think before you exhaust the content of your PhD topic, so I mean, could you please describe the focus of your PhD, which I believe what you were describing and comes into play properly. Yeah.
The focus is simply using artificial intelligence to looking at ways of using artificial intelligence to leverage autonomous work, efficient work, and then in a very secured way. Period. I think I'd want to place it that way because it's about 4 different sub-focuses that are placed in this sentence.
And briefly, usually when we apply for PhD, they ask for what is different about your work? What are you going to do to contribute to knowledge? How special or different is your PhD focus or topic?
Yep. So mine is a build research, right? It's a build research. Basically, I'm not just going to, as I said, I'm not just going to query standing things. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to build it on it, and that's what I indicated. So what I told them was that any research opportunity that I go into, and you know that your research focus, your research ideas, your research topics change at any point in time. So you have to be flexible with that. But I told them anything that I go in is going to build on something, build on already the knowledge out there, and that is what I'm doing. So once we start talking deeper into what my research is about, you understand that I'm not picking phenomena and then building upon that. I'm actually trying to introduce a different concept, which could be controversial. I've lived in the world of controversy, so I'm not that careful when it comes to that. So that's what I'm trying to do, build that controversy out there.
Yeah, and if you know Francis very well, he speaks his mind. He doesn't shy away. He's never changed, and he's been the same person from speaking his mind. And if you are interested in his PhD topic, I think we can do a video on that to go deep into what artificial intuitive intelligence, if I get it right, right?
Intuitive intelligence.
Yes, please comment and let me know if you are very much interested in this topic that we can delve into it proper. Otherwise, today's what we're trying to do is to look at like I mentioned, the PhD experience. What is it like doing a PhD? A lot of people I know, especially from developing countries, we are told that education is the key. And as some people say, you try to climb and climb and climb and climb. And when you get the key, you don't even know where the door, you don't even locate the door to open for job opportunities. So just to let you know what a PhD experiences are. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's tough, and it's even more tougher as a family man trying to juggle between your family life, PhD life, and your research and teaching and all that make it complex. So Francis will tell us more about it. So beside conducting research, which is your main focus, that's on your PhD, what else do you do? What else does your PhD or academic responsibilities entail?
I am a graduate assistant to teaching assistant. So basically, I do have course module that I've been teaching for the past 3 years on campus. So apart from the research, I also have a 3-day, 1 hour each course module that I teach Microsoft packages from fundamental introductory Microsoft knowledge through to deep dive Microsoft packages, Excel, PowerPoint, anything, very dynamically used than what we use on. So that's what I do. I have that teaching responsibilities too, and I have the grading responsibilities too. Over time, I've decided, so my TAs, so I'm a doctoral assistant, and we do have the tutors. I don't let my tutors do anything. I do everything with my tutoring and then my career counseling, my career work for, and school counseling for my
Yeah.
direct students.
So if somebody wants to know, how do you juggle between this? Because you need selective attention to ensure that you're on the right path with research, right path with teaching, and sometimes people forget right path with marking and grading exams.
Yep.
That's even more time consuming.
Yep. It's what the benefit that I do have over here is that I'm also a student. So it helps me understand. And I'm someone who is very realistic and relatable. I don't punish people for something that I would do. If in my imperfections I do mistakes, I would expect my students also to make their own mistakes. And so I also have anxieties when it comes to, and once we go in there, we'll talk about that, anxiety when it comes to grades. I'm a straight A student now, not because I'm smart, but because of the anxiety of failing, right? And so, and I know the only way I can mark and check my failure is to know how I'm performing. And so if my lecturers and my professors are not doing that in real time and due time and not communicating it to me, I get frustrated. And I always mirror that on my students too. So all the time, I place my students in my academic work ahead of everything. My wife will tell you, I'm here up 24/7, trying to get my students out. I sacrifice days and sleeps for them. I'll wake up when I have a lecture at 8 o'clock. I'll wake up at 6 o'clock, go over videos, 3 different types of videos and I do video all my lectures for the past 2 years. So I go over all of those variations and versions of that to understand that I pick all the good knowledge out of that and I go to my students with that. So I do prepare very hard and commit very hard to the students, because if it had flipped and I was a student, I would expect the same from me.
Yep.
So I don't give less.
Yeah, so that's more about the teaching. So at what time do you make or research your own PhD, trying to look at it?
It's when I'm at work, because I'm researching into things that I do when I'm at work, right? So, and that's what you indicated. Get a PhD, get your experience, your domain experience, your career experience, and then do a PhD. There's no difference in that. Your data sets, your analysis, your observations, your conclusions, your other peripheral readings, of other literature is the work that you're doing. Nothing is changing. It's the same exact work that you're doing. So I do my research when I'm at work. I compile my research on weekends like this, Saturday, Sundays, when I'm watching Arsenal or I'm having or having a drink.
Currently, Arsenal is doing well. I give it to them.
Yeah, we just scored 1-0, so
well, good for you. My team is suffering.
So,
Chelsea is suffering. So let me just hold it.
Yeah.
And
So I commit my weekends. I've said it that Saturdays are for my research works. I'm writing something, and again, have to pace myself and be realistic with myself. And so I do my research on Saturdays. On Sundays, I use it to prepare my lecture notes for my students. Midnight of Sunday to Monday, I send out all the distros to all the 3 colleges I teach, and then I go over all my videos before I go into class. Then there's the weeks.
This is interesting. So, I mean, if you have plans of doing PhD, I think you need to listen carefully. how we juggle between research, not just doing research, but sometimes you have teaching responsibilities, just like myself. So here the same, I do teaching, I do the research, and then I also manage a course, and I have a whole course of my own that I teach, an online course. So
Yeah,
sometimes, and a family man, of course, and
yeah,
sometimes we have to find ways and means to make sure that
it
we
works.
are planning very well and having good quality time. So do you sometimes take work home?
I work from home, so I'm at home. For me, there is no home for me. There's no home. I
Hmm.
remember when I went for an interview, and then the lady was like, "So, do you take a rest?" And I'm like, "The only rest I take is when my son is on my lap and my laptop is on my lap."
But
So that is the
how
rest.
about vacation?
I party hard when I go on vacations. And if
Hmm.
you follow me on social media, you know that I pile, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the mental health and rest. I compile and pile all the stress. And when I go out on vacation, I party hard. There are some vacations I don't go with my family because there are some vacations that I do things that my family doesn't don't have to know because they will not be proud of me when I do that, right? I don't want my son to see me super drunk and
Yeah,
screaming on the streets of Miami, right? Or Vegas, or
yeah,
trying to be on a Vegas strip, trying to do nothing. But then those things give me that kind of. But I set times aside, and I look forward to that vacation, those vacations
yeah.
a lot.
Well, yesterday I saw a video on your, I think, on your storyline. If you don't mind, I can show it to viewers.
Yeah,
You see, this is Francis having a good time.
and
Sometimes we need it. I
yeah, and
spoke
my
to a
and my
colleague here
and
who
my wife
said,
was the one. My
yeah.
wife was the one who was videoing it, and my son was giving. So you hear someone cough at the background. My son was giving a puppy look.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
that's
have that.
that's fantastic. That's good to know. And just to remind the viewers again, if you're interested in his PhD, we can do a video on it, or you can send him a message about your own aspirations if it aligns with Francis. So I'll put his details over there, and you can probably follow him. And you'll realize that we're not here to make PhD look very cumbersome. It's something that you're gonna do. It's fun sometimes if you want it to be. So we're just trying to be as real as possible, so people can know that they are good and challenging times in it. So as a PhD candidate or student with a family, what challenges do you face sometimes?
And for me, the benefit that I do have, and you'd have experienced the same benefit, so is that my family are all students. So
Yeah,
I see my wife struggle with her academics more than I do struggle with my academics, right? Because again, you'd understand that's what people have to understand, that there's a reason why PhD is the apex of academics. However, that is the reason why PhD is the apex of academics, because they don't require so much from you. They expect you to know more than the fundamentals, the bachelor's, and the rest, where you are doing so much intense. It's not so intense per se in grasping all knowledge. It's intense by giving out all the knowledge. Fortunately for me, I have my wife is in a lower degree, doing a lower degree than a PhD. So she's doing more. And so, relatively, if you ask between she and um, I'm the laziest person in the house when it comes to concentrating on academics. She's been behind the computer for 2 days now, right? So, it's easy for me to face challenges, understanding that this is the apex of education, right? My family understand that this is the apex of education. And so it's easy
yeah,
when you know the challenges, when you don't underestimate what is before you, not underestimating the pain that it gives you, but not underestimating the benefits that it gives you. It's a
yeah,
higher glory, and it deserves all the attention and the
yeah.
challenges that you face.
And then that's totally understandable. And PhD often we are always told to narrow,
Yeah,
so you could have a sort of like a pipe hole sort of thing, but within that pipe hole, you should be able to get all the attributes of your
yeah,
target. So
because you're owning it.
basically, yeah, basically about that. And how is it like, doing PhD, missing targets with your supervisors or meeting targets? How does it work sometimes, and how do you
Yeah,
communicate that?
yeah. My supervisors. So I'm sorry, I'm having this on record, but I'm a bully. right? I'm a bully because I have all of these certifications and everything. So my first, and something that I've done a lot, my first interaction with my professor, I create the first best impression, right? Even if it means that I would send an email through my work email. And so I'm sorry, I'm not behind my personal computer, but I wanted to introduce myself to you. And then you know my position. Oh, this guy is an assistant vice president of a bank, and he's in charge of global intelligence and reporting. I have to be very careful how I communicate with him,
Yeah,
right? So, and again, I have to understand that he has so much he's doing. And under my signature, it tells you also that I am an instructor on campus. I do this research. I did with this department. I'm that, and I'm doing all of this certification. What I'm trying to mean is that you don't actually have to be a bully, but you have to communicate your struggles, your experience, and your position with your professors. If your wife is going through a situation that is taking your attention, tell your professor.
yeah,
They are human beings. They wouldn't. Yeah, some of them may go like, I don't care, but then you've communicated with them, and then they know that when you do report it to the head of academics and everything, they are in trouble. So what I do is that I communicate my pains and my struggles with my professors a lot. But before everything, I let them know where I'm coming from. That I'm not the average, let's say Nepali or Indian or Mexican or Canadian or British that came to this campus fully sponsored by their parents and then doing their and have nothing to do but concentrate on their academics. I'm struggling with my family. We are new here. We are relatively new here, so we are getting and settling in. Professors understand that. They
yeah,
understand.
and I think that's very important. Sometimes culturally, many people do not know this. For instance, if you're coming from a culture that shows too much respect to the elderly, to
Yep,
the extent that you don't want to speak, it can be
it's a problem.
very, you know, difficult for the PhD candidate. I
Yep.
had a chat with a friend and in Japan, also doing a PhD, and he was telling me one of the supervisors was so mean to the student. The student's PhD process dragged, and he couldn't finish. As a result, he took his own life.
Yeah.
So this one is very important. I
Yeah.
think Francis is giving some,
And
some great advice over here.
yeah, I know once I'm done with the PhD and I decide to be in the academia, in the faculty, that Kai is going to be my colleague. That professor is going to end up to be my colleague, and he knows that. And that's why he's expecting that from me. So I have to be able to communicate as fairly and as courageously as I can, because in the next 3, 4 years, we'll be the same. He may be an associate or something, but we are all faculty members, and my voice will be as equally felt as his.
Yeah,
So it always kept stuck with me that we are in this together.
and I
You
think
want
that's fantastic. That sums up the mental health issues. You've spoken about the relationship and maintaining constant communication with your supervisor, even with your colleagues. Are there any experiences you would want to share and to avoid this unspoken mental health issue,
yeah,
especially in with PhD students?
speak about it, talk about it. I I have I've recorded myself crying a lot. I've kept all of those collages there for one day. When my son is just, oh, high school is difficult, I say, go watch this and come to me 2 days time and tell me what you think. Right? I've cried. I've been in the bathtub, cried. I have been anxious. There was a time that I actually dropped out of one class and I had to change my degree from computer science to software engineering. And I left my family and drove away 3, 4 miles away, stuck myself in a hotel, just swam and swam. And social media was seeing me swimming in pools and like, oh my God, this guy is chilling. But then it was me going through mental health therapy. Accept the fact that you can cry sometimes, accept the fact that you are weak sometimes, accept the fact that if you decide to be alone, you struggle and suffer alone, and then talk about it. There are some times that I've taken a trip to New York, New Jersey, just to meet a friend and talk about my experience and again cry, right?
Yeah,
Again to them. So I've cried more than I have actually laughed during my PhD. But it's worth it because it's the mental health that matters. There
yeah,
have been times that I've been up all night. My wife will tell you there have been times I'll be downstairs and I'll start screaming, all of those things because I thought this analysis that I'm doing was right, and I go online into one research, and I realize someone is already doing it. Spend
Yeah.
3 months doing something that someone is already doing. Tear it down, start again.
And that's the interesting thing. And I think it's great to have this experience and then share with others who are now coming in. Over the past, I think 1 month, I've got a couple of messages from people who want to come to the PhD, who wants to do it, who are asking, is it worth it? I'm doing this job whatsoever. Should I still come? And that's when, it dawned on me to, find a channel or a medium where we can, meet and share these ideas. People talk about mental health, and that's real. How
That's
about
true.
physical health? How do you maintain your physical health as well?
Yeah. So, and I'm the voice person to talk about that. I pay almost $100 a month for a gym membership, and I was telling a friend that I have to not go into the gym again, because since October, I've not been to the gym. So October,
Yeah,
November, December, January, February, March, um, $500, $600 gone, without me going into the gym. But physically, I feel I'm relative because I don't eat a lot. My wife will tell you I eat once a day. That's all I do. And that's not good though. But then it means that I do that intermittent fasting, very
yeah.
calculated intermittent fasting. So I'm not taking so much toxin in me. I'm not actually drinking so much. And I make sure as best as possible. I'm always on campus as best as possible. I walk from one place to the other, even in the cold on campus. I drive only when I have to leave home and get to a place, but I walk around most of the time. It's getting to the summertime, spring to summertime now. You see me hit the gym again, you see me run on the streets. It's very important because if not, you are going to suffer. Your physical health is very important. When was that? I think 3 days ago, I saw one PhD student done with a PhD, everything dead.
Ooh,
Yeah, physical health,
oh,
heart
that's
palpitation, heart attack, all of those things. And
and
it's
we
very
sit a lot.
Yep. No, if you're not sitting a lot, unless you are someone into field research, right,
Yeah,
where you have to actually go into the field and go up and down and everything and etc. And even that, you still have to take care of your
exactly.
physical
If
health.
even that, I always say, beg your pardon, even that, how long would you spend on the field?
Yep.
Even
A
in the
few days.
lab, you'll be standing. You come to the office, 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. By the time you realize it's 6 a.m., you're at home. Just pick
I
a
get
book to
home.
read through, and by
Yep.
the time you realize you spend about
It's
10,
2
11
p.m.
hours.
Yep. I
You
do that a
know,
lot. My on campus, I'm supposed to be done with everything because I have a tutoring experience over there too. So I'm supposed to leave the tutor's office by 3 o'clock, but then my actual job I have to close at 5 o'clock. So I leave. I with my actual job I have to stay there till 5 o'clock. And I'm
yeah,
about to leave. My colleagues always tell me, "Go to sleep, Francis." I'm like, I'm gonna go to sleep, but it's gonna take 20 to 25 minutes drive from
yeah.
campus home. And at that time, there are so many ideas that are going to go through my head. And I come back, I leave my laptop, I'm laying there on my couch, and then ta, 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 ta. So sometimes those in Ghana would see me post at 6 a.m. Ghana time. There's 12 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m. because I'm always up. So yep, you have to take care of your physical health.
There's also social health. How do
Yep,
you interact with your colleague PhD or faculty members or with friends just to while
yep.
away time to keep your mind at ease and what have you amidst all these responsibilities?
Yeah, so my social health for my colleagues, I every day I go out for lunch or dinner with a colleague.
So you are
Whether
the organizer. I know
I'm
there's always that so
and I'm the one who's paying. And I'm the one who's paying because I need them to be interactive. And
yeah.
and the more I
There's
talk to
always
them,
that one person.
that's paying. So I'm the one. I'm like, hey, and then I've made them think that I can't. So I
Yeah,
told them I can't eat alone. So I want you along. Come, let's
yeah,
eat together. And that's what I'm. So I'm always the one paying. There is this other white guy who always wants to beat me to that. So we'll say, I'm going to pay for it today. So yesterday, he was the one who paid. But for my friends, I'm always, I have 5 days that my academic friends, I do that. For my social friends, it's social media. That's why people see me post a lot on social media because of the fact that I really want my friends to know that I'm okay. They can also be okay. We interact a lot. I talk to people a lot. My DMs are always filled. with so much, right? And as best as I can, and I know it's not good to advise that, me and my wife are not on social media together. Most of the social media together. Why? Because there may be some comments that I may pass that may be very intrusive and very, very, very borderline, out of place. And then you don't want to disable that kind of. But then my social media is where I have my social interactions a lot. And then those periodic trips that I take out of state also help a lot. So I
Yes.
have that balance. It helps a lot. That balance helps a lot.
Well, that's fantastic. We can talk about this the whole day. But this is just to open the lid a little bit to share with you some of the things we go through. Some are good, some are challenging, as I mentioned, but it's worth it if PhD is something you really want to do. If you are the type who wants to go back to the community, back to the lab, and then give back, and that sums up what education is. So far, has the journey been enjoyable for you?
It's if you want to place on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's 6, right? Because I'm just in the balance, but then it's been empowering.
Yeah.
It's been highly empowering. The people around you, if you come from a social class where people don't appreciate your PhD, then there's a problem. I did not appreciate my PhD. As again, I started thinking, I'm just gonna get this retirement package. I'll retire at the age of 50, get into the Amazon forest, get a cottage, drink my dark chocolate or dark coffee, and write my books and code. That is my aim. And once I write my book, you'd have it beneath Dr. Francis Martinson, and it will sell. So I did not appreciate the PhD. I was using that as a token for that. But ever since I started at my workplace, knowing that I am a PhD student, they place prominence to me, my train of thought. My friends place prominence to my train of thought. My students place prominence to my train of thought. My mentors also place prominence to my train of thought. So it's not been purely enjoyable because I still do not see the depth that people around me see, but it's been empowering and very, very liberating that people around me are seeing the enormity of this academic path, rather than me seeing it as just another retirement package.
So would you do it again if given the opportunity?
But if I had an opportunity to do it again, I'll do it, and I'll do it early. I'll do it like yesterday. I'll do it like before I even went into high school. I'll start PhD. That is how I want to do.
Well, that's a bittersweet journey when you are done and you have your PhD attached to your name. That's something, of course, you would definitely like to have. And any advice or thoughts to someone who is watching us now, who probably may have gained admission to do a PhD, who is preparing to do a PhD, or who dreams to do a PhD?
I would say you have to find out the reason why you are doing a PhD. And it's not just because you want to be a doctor or you just want to get a good job, because PhD will not assure you of a good job. As a matter of fact, even if it will assure you of a good job, it's going to be years after you're done with your PhD, meaning that the relevance of the PhD that you're doing is questionable, right? So for instance, I'm doing something in cybersecurity, AI and everything. After some time, maybe in the next 3-4 years, some kids will start doing AI and everything, and the relevance will be low. What you have to find out is the intrinsic benefit. Try to ask yourself, you've got the admission, you've got the opportunity. Why are you here? It has to be something intrinsic. And when all of those challenges come in, you are able to consume it and say, I chose it. I own this experience. This is the apex of my experience. Anyone can ever do anywhere in this life. The emeritus and the rest are just titles, but this is the apex. So I own it because it's going to be hard. That's why most people are not there.
Yes, so it's been an interesting discussion so far, and I want to thank Francis for making some time, on a weekend where we are supposed to rest and, have some good time with our families. We decide to do this to share our experiences with those who are interested in doing PhD. And so it sums it up. I am very grateful to Francis. And I always say that nil desperandum, never give up until the work is done. And I thank you for your audience. This would continue with different people across the globe, sharing their experiences, both PhD and then at the master's. Others would also share how they found a master's scholarship and the processes they went through, both for master's and a PhD. Thank you for your audience and looking forward for the next episode. I'm very, very grateful, Francis.
Welcome. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling me in.
Yeah.